Hi, I'm Mike McCormick, back from the GBTA studios live here in Toronto. And I'm here with Courtney, the President and Chief Operating Officer of DLC Strategic Solutions Limited, and a host of a panel here for us this morning on one of my favorite topics, airline negotiations and airline pricing. Welcome.
Thank you.
So,
it's great to be here.
Yeah, so in the panel this morning, the landscape keeps changing, and buyers are continuing to have to find ways to look for value in their negotiations. So tell me a little bit of how does the role data plays, trends you're seeing, what are you seeing right now in airline negotiations?
Well, airline negotiations, we're seeing, based on information by the U.S. Bureau of Transportation Statistics, that the average U.S. domestic airfares are actually declining by 2% every single year from 1995 to 2018 when you factor in inflation. And that has a huge impact on negotiations with the airlines. We're seeing that on an overall, it's due to newer technology. It's due to larger airplanes. It's due to more efficient operations by the airlines. And we're seeing on average that it costs approximately $100 to $110 per flight hour to travel domestic flights in the US. And with this airline pricing declining by 2% per year, it has an impact on profitability of the airlines. So when you look at the year 2017, all the airlines combined in the US, they had approximate 12.2% profitability. When you look at Air Canada, they had an approximate 8.4%, and WestJet was 9.7%. Right. So on an overall perspective, looking at airline pricing, some of their top expenses are the capital costs of the jets. It's the fuel, it's the maintenance, and it's the labor. But from a traveler perspective, their top costs are the cost of the trip, the ancillary fees, the productivity, and the changes and cancellations to and delays to their trips. So all these things have an impact. From a perspective of the airline pricing, fair market share is one of the key drivers for them. And you have to understand what fair market share means to each of these airlines, because it can be different for each of them. And the fair market share, in terms of an overall, from a pricing perspective, when we look at the discounts by particular classes, we're seeing that on average, the first class and business class tickets get the highest discounts. We're seeing that premium economy is next, and then economy and basic fare get the lowest discounts. Well, we went out and we surveyed our travel managers to see what they thought. And the responses that we were seeing is that in business class and first class, they were getting discounts ranging from 13 to 29%. With regards to premium economy, it was in the neighborhood of 19 to 22%.
Wow. So
and for economy,
very substantial discounts.
Yeah, very good discounts. And in economy, it was anywhere from 9 to 16%. So, there are some good opportunities there, but you really need to understand how the airlines price their data. And most importantly, you need to understand and look at your own data to determine the value that each of you bring to the table. So you need to understand your total cost, your total trips, what your average costing is. You need to get into the detailed analytics to look at the specific OD pairings. You need to understand what provincial spend there is, regional spend, as well as how much you spend in the entire country. And you need to understand that transborder traffic and international spend.
Well, and be able to understand and forecast where your business is going, right? Because you know that, and that's the advantage you have in terms of understanding that, so you can go and make smart decisions about the contracts in the future. That is one of the sole advantages you have, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. The key drivers being the ability to move market share, and the profit margin for the airlines is going to get you the biggest discounts, and that consolidation of airlines. If you consolidate your spend to lesser number of airlines, you're going to get better discounts and your future growth.
Does relationships still matter in terms of?
Absolutely. It really does. It's probably even more so. It's important today than even it was way back in the last 20 years, and that evolution of those airlines.
And any tips, or from a procurement perspective, like for the buyers, like what should they be doing? What can they do to be better at their jobs?
Well, I mean, the role of the buyers is try and get the best overall deal for their company and trying to, make a strategic partnership. So in order to get that best overall deal, things that do shift, or in order to get that, you need the ability to shift market share and the profit margin. Those are the key things in your negotiations that have an impact on what type of discounts you're going to get. Volume is important, and provided you meet the minimum revenue requirements, it's not the key driving factor. It is that ability to shift market share and the profitability for the airline. If you have a situation where you have a $10 million spend, but only one airline can service you, you're in a weak buying power position because it's a monopoly. But if you take that same $10 million spend, and if you're in a battleground where it's very competitive, you're in a strong buying power position, which is going to translate to higher discounts with your providers. So you need to get into the detailed data analytics to be able to understand how that can work. But on an overall, you need to look at the pricing, you need to look at the data analytics, you need to have a frank discussion between the two parties and say, what value do each of the organizations bring to the table to find a win-win solution and hopefully end up with a strategic partnership.
Very good. Great advice, Lee. Thank you for doing the session here at our conference and appreciate the support.
Thank you.
And I'm Mike McCormick, live from GBTA Toronto.